All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. Give everybody just a couple of seconds here. People that might be joining from Rachel's Instagram. Hopefully you caught her live worship set. She did an excellent job. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing that. It's been a huge blessing to have these worship leaders join me for this. This is house to house. In case you're wondering, like, what is this? And maybe you didn't catch Rachel's set and you're just dropping in because you saw me go live and you're not really sure what's happening and you're hoping for some kind of entertainment or some kind of comedy skit. There may be some comedy involved, sorry, but what you've dropped into or what you've joined is called House to House. We've been doing it for a few weeks now, and what it is, it works this way. So, for instance, Rachel just finished leading worship from her house. So she gets on her Instagram, goes live, leads worship, and then when she's done, she directs everyone over to my Instagram, where I go through a Bible study. And so it goes from her house to your house, and then from my house to your house. So pretty neat deal. I mean, you know, with technology, it's pretty incredible that we can do this kind of stuff. You know, we can actually go into each other's homes in a sense and be able to share this way. We have been going through Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah in the Bible, and where we're at tonight is in Nehemiah chapter 7. And what we've been trying to do at every session is we've been trying to find some practical wisdom. Give me some practical application. How do I conduct myself? How do I deal with what's going on around me with the coronavirus and everyone being fearful, and I'm having a hard time finding eggs, and I'm having a hard time finding toilet paper, and everybody's snatching up all of the hand sanitizer, and I can't find Lysol, and you know, we see all that's going on in Italy and everything that's happening in New York, and it's just what we're trying to do is find some clarity in the midst of chaos. But we're also trying to find some courage. What am I supposed to do during this time? Is this a time for me to just turn inward and make sure that I've got, you know, my supplies and I'm ready for 6 years of being quarantined in my house? Or is this an opportunity for me to, yes, take care of my family and have my things stocked up and make sure I've got my supplies, which is wise. That's wisdom. It really is. And can I do that? And can I also turn my eyesight, my view outward and see other people's needs and see people that are scared, maybe like I am, but maybe I've got some hope that I can share with somebody else. And some of you, if you're still working, maybe you have coworkers or people that frequent your business that you can encourage. Maybe you're not working. Maybe you've been one of the ones that have you've been temporarily, you know, laid off or whatever they call it. You're out of work at the moment, but still you're on social media. You can encourage other people, and so that's what we've been trying to do is find some creative ways, trying to think of some creative ways that we can bless some other people during this time. So where we're at now, we've been through 6 chapters of Nehemiah. It's not over. We're about halfway through the book. And Nehemiah chapter 7 is an excellent chapter dealing with all of these things. It gives us some practical wisdom here. And what we're actually going to do is we're actually only going to focus in on the first 4 verses. You'll find out why in a few minutes. The first 4 verses, and then we'll head way down to the bottom of the chapter and look at a couple of verses there before we close it up for the evening. But what I've done is these first 4 verses I've titled in, really the entire chapter is all about passing the baton. So if you're taking notes and you want to write down pass the baton, that's what this study is going to be all about here. Pass the baton. Verse 1 begins this way. Then it was, when the wall was built, and I had hung the doors, when the gatekeepers, the singers, and the Levites had been appointed, that I gave the charge of Jerusalem to my brother Hanani, and Hananiah the leader of the citadel, for he was a faithful man and feared God more than many. And I said to them, do not let the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot. Which is funny because isn't the sun always hot? Anyways, we'll talk about what that means. And while they stand guard, let them shut and bar the doors and appoint guards from among the inhabitants of Jerusalem, one at his watch station and another in front of his own house. Now the city was large and spacious, but the people in it were few, and the houses were not built. The houses were not built completely. And that's as far as we'll go tonight. Now I'm going to go through and make some application here. But notice back in verse 1, you notice that Nehemiah, number 1, that he finished well. This is an extremely important point here. Then it was, verse 1, when the wall was built. So in case you weren't here for the preceding chapters, you'll want to know this, that Nehemiah got the opportunity, we believe that he was given that opportunity by God, to go to Jerusalem. He had been living in a palace, a servant there, serving in the palace, and he went to Jerusalem for one reason, and it was to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. Okay? Once he's done with that, I want you to see what he does here. Then it was when the wall was built. So first of all, he finished well. Remember this, I think I've said it a couple of times here, that how you start is not as important as how you finish. You may start well, you may start rough. And but here's the deal, certainly along the way, in whatever you have going on, you will make mistakes. There will be ups, wonderful ups, and there will be discouraging downs. And you need to understand that the way you start out is not as important as how you finish. Now, starting out well is obviously a good thing and it's beneficial, but finishing well, that's the goal, that's the point. And I want you to see here that Nehemiah finishes well when the wall was built. So he actually completed the wall. And he goes on to say, and I had hung the doors. So everything, the wall is completely rebuilt around the city. This is what he came for. He's finished his job and he's done a wonderful job. And he's done it's actually been a quick job. It was done in 52 days. It's an incredible feat. And then he goes on to say this in verse 1 still, when the gatekeepers, the singers, and the Levites had been appointed. So he made sure that he had put people in position, in place. Gatekeepers, the singers, very important, right? You got to have singers because you got to have a soundtrack when you're doing heroic things. Gatekeepers, the singers, and the Levites who were servants, temple servants, priestly servants, and the Levites had been appointed. This is a wonderful practical, some practical pointers here. And that is this, that when I am involved in doing any kind of work for God that I might be doing, when I'm blessing someone else, maybe I start to, we've mentioned some things over the last couple of weeks. I even mentioned, I know that there are some people out there that make jewelry. You can use that jewelry to bless someone else, to make someone a bracelet or a simple necklace, and to leave it on their doorstep. I understand you don't want to go talk face to face and social distancing and all that, it's fine. But maybe you can drop that off or mail it to somebody. You find out what it is. Maybe you can do a craft or you can do something else that you can drop off or give to somebody or send to someone in the mail. It's just the point is that all of us have something that we can do. Here, they've been appointed, they've been organized, and it's important that when we're doing something, that we find other people that can help out in that. That can we can teach them how to do it also. We'll talk some more about that here in just a moment. But there were gatekeepers, there were singers, there were Levites that had been organized and put into place. And I want you to see what he's about to do here in verse 2. You say, well, why was he doing that? Well, glad that you asked. Because we move from finishing well to finding good leaders. Verse 2. He says at that point that I gave the charge of Jerusalem to my brother Hanani and Hananiah. Now, this is incredible. First of all, what it means is that Nehemiah, when he was done rebuilding the wall, he actually gave up the leadership position that he had there to some other people. Now, this is almost unheard of, right? Today we have individuals, people, groups of people, individuals and groups, who once they find, they may have been put into a position to lead. And once they taste that leadership, so to speak, that glory, the glory that comes along with leadership, maybe the prestige that goes along with it, the authority that they have, oftentimes they become focused on that, and then it's a desire for more. And then it becomes something more than what they originally had planned. And so not so with Nehemiah. This is an important point also for you and I. We must finish well, but once we're finished, let's make sure that we leave someone else in our place to continue on that good work. Here's what he does in verse 2. He says, at that point that I gave the charge of Jerusalem to my brother Hanani, and Hananiah, the leader of the citadel. And here's why he chose these guys. I believe these are the reasons why he chose both guys, but he mentions just one of them here, and Hananiah, the leader of the citadel, for he was two things: a faithful man. So if you're taking notes, you say, you know what, I need to finish well, and I need to find some good leaders. How do I find good leaders? Well, number one, you want to find someone who's faithful, who's going to do the job and do it well. Not perfectly. You don't do it perfectly. I don't do it perfectly. I'm sure that there are plenty of ways to improve on what we're doing here, this house to house. And I'm sure that others could give me lots of suggestions. We're not looking for perfection, but faithfulness. That I do the job, I do it to the best of my ability, and I do it well, and I finish it. I complete it. This guy was faithful. So I want to find people that are faithful, that are going to carry on. Secondly, he says about this man that he feared God, and then he tags on more than many. Now, I like this because he doesn't say he feared God more than anyone else. He was the holiest guy I've ever known in my life. He says he was faithful and he feared God more than many. It indicates that there were others that feared God more than this guy. Doesn't mean that he didn't fear God. It's maybe there were more mature people there, spiritually speaking. There were more mature people. But they didn't have that quality of being faithful to do the hard work and feared God. They didn't have that combination. And in this man Hananiah, Nehemiah found these qualities. He was faithful and he feared God. This is extremely important that we find good leaders that can take over for us. I love this element. I love to pass on the things that I do. I'm always looking for someone else that can do it and do it better than me. I've got Rachel is one of the high school students from the youth group that I teach at. And I don't know, I may have some others on here that are part of that high school group, and I may be giving away some secrets here. But I'm going to share this, and this is just a prayer that I've prayed for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been involved in church leadership. I have always prayed this prayer: God, would you please send someone that can do a better job than me? That's just always been my prayer. I'm always looking for someone else, maybe that is... oftentimes I'm looking for someone younger. Why? Because younger is better? No, not necessarily. But looking for someone that started out earlier than I did. I see that as you know, there's great potential there, but it's not always just according to age, obviously. I'm looking for people that are maturing, that love God, that want to serve. And I'm always praying, God, would you bring someone to this group that can do a better job than I can do? If I really love the people that I am serving and volunteering and working with, then I want the very best for them. And God, if I'm not the very best, please move me out of the way. Bring somebody else. If there's someone out there right now watching and you feel like, you know, I think I could do this Instagram thing and kind of carry on this study, fantastic. Let's try it. Let's do it. I want God to bring someone better than me. And certainly there are lots of people out there that are doing a much better job than me, no doubt. In 1747, Pastor Jonathan Dickinson, along with 3 other pastors and 3 additional church volunteers, founded the College of New Jersey. The college was established as a seminary. That means that it's centered in and around biblical studies. The whole point of the college was to produce pastors and church leaders. Pastor Dickinson was the first president of the college and was followed by a long line of presidents who were either pastors, preachers, sons of pastors, or missionaries. You're wondering, the College of New Jersey. I've never heard of the College of New Jersey. You actually have heard of the College of New Jersey, because the College of New Jersey later became Princeton University. A college, an institution that began as a college for training church leadership. Over the years, over the generations, eventually evolved into Princeton University. And I can tell you, in case you don't know, Princeton University is no longer centered and focused in and around biblical studies. Their main focus is not to train church leadership. They've strayed from that. They've strayed miles and miles from that. Is it a great university? Sure it is. Is it a wonderful university for studying? Sure it is. But it's no longer centered in and around biblical studies. What happened? What happened is that eventually, over time, the leadership let down their guard. And slowly but surely other leaders came in who wanted to broaden the focus of the College of New Jersey. And so little by little, it lost its focus. You know, we are only one generation away from losing the things that we believe. If we do not pass them on to other people, then they're lost. And so it is imperative for you and I that when we are serving God, like we've been talking about, practically doing things to bless other people, it's imperative that you and I are looking for others that can partner up, that we can train, that we can send. I don't know what's going to happen to me tonight or tomorrow. I may get in a car, forget the virus, I may get in a car wreck. I live in San Bernardino. I may get robbed and shot somewhere, carjacked. I don't know what's going to happen to me. Is there someone else? Have I done my best to find someone else that can take over my spot if I'm gone? Or am I going to leave the group that I'm leading? Am I going to leave them in a lurch? Am I going to leave them, looking for a leader and scattered? So it is imperative that I'm doing these, that I'm finishing well, and in the process finding good leaders to pass the passion on. I want to pass the passion on to others. Now, we move from finishing well to finding good leaders to verses 3 and 4, final instructions. And I said to them, do not let the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot. That is, for the longest time, been a funny statement to me. Don't let the gates, don't open the gates of Jerusalem until the sun is hot. I think, well, the sun's like thousands and thousands of degrees hot. What are you talking about? It's always hot. What he meant was, wait until the sun has risen. Okay, I'll tell you why here in just a moment. Do not let the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot, and while they stand guard, let them shut and bar the doors, and appoint guards from among the inhabitants of Jerusalem, one at his watch station and another in front of his own house. Here's the point. The point that Nehemiah was giving in these final instructions as he's on his way out. He's actually leaving Jerusalem. He's come, he's done this great work, and now he's leaving. He's giving up the leadership. He came to rebuild the wall. That's what he did. Time for him to go. For him to pass on the leadership to someone else. He never desired to stay there forever and lead. Okay? But as he's leaving, he gives these important instructions, and the instructions are this. He says, listen, make sure that the gates of Jerusalem, this wall, make sure that this wall stays shut until everyone is up and awake, and there are guards at the doors, and they're ready to bar the doors and keep a watch. In other words, don't just go open the gates of the city wall willy-nilly and just let anybody in at any time. Just because you get up at 3 a.m. doesn't mean that, you can just, leave to work and leave the door wide open. The rest of your family's still there. So what you want to do, what Nehemiah is saying is, make sure that you've got people positioned. Here's the final instructions. This is wisdom, because again, whenever I'm doing something, I'm serving God in some way. What I want to do is I'm passing the baton to someone. I don't want to hold on to that leadership like, no, nobody else can do this but me. No, there's somebody else that can do it better. And when I'm passing on the baton, I want to say, hey, here's the final instructions. Do these things. Make sure you keep a watch. Stay aware of these things. And that's what Nehemiah is doing here. What he's revealing to us is his heart. Now, he's been revealing his heart all throughout the book. But he's saying, hey, he's saying to the next leadership in line, hey, be careful. Keep watch. Keep guard. At some point in the leadership at New Jersey College, someone didn't keep guard. Someone didn't give those final instructions, or someone didn't heed those final instructions. And so it evolved from a college that was focused on biblical studies to modern day Princeton University. That is a far cry from that. So you and I, each of us, must do our best to remain faithful, to give the final instructions before we leave or on our way out. Now, let me go over those again real quickly, and then I want to point out just a couple things before we close. Again, this is about passing the baton. I want to finish well. I want to find good leaders so that as I'm leaving, I'm exiting, someone else can take over. I want to give final instructions. Here's what you should do. As I leave and you take over, here's how you want to do it. So he was in the business of training other people. That's a good thing, okay? To train other people. I don't want it to all depend on me. Let's train some other people to do what I'm doing. Okay? Now, let me just point out a few things. A couple of these as we go down in the further into Nehemiah chapter 7. This is my strange mind. I wanted to point this out in verse 63 because I know it'll some people might not like this. Verse 63. Some people might not like it, so let me point it out. Verse 63. No, I'm sorry. Let me tell you this. I'm sorry. Back up in, you don't have to go back up. I'll just tell you. Back at verse 5, what Nehemiah did was he actually went back. He found a registry of all the people that had originally come back into the city. And what he does is he reads, he lists that long list of names. Now, normally, if I'm teaching through this book and through this chapter in a church setting, I'll go ahead and read through all of these names because I have a blast doing it and you guys get a laugh out of me doing that. However, because we're on Instagram and we do have some time limit, rather than me just reading to you over the screen like this, I would encourage you to take a couple of minutes. It won't take but a few minutes. Read through some of the names, do your best, and it'll be fun to, do it with a light heart and understand that we don't know if we're pronouncing these right or not. But here in verse 63, I just found this funny verse. And of the priests, the sons of Habiah, the sons of Koz, the sons of Barzillai. Now look at this. Who took a wife of the daughters of Barzillai the Gileadite and was called by their name. What he's saying is this, that this individual, Barzillai, the sons of Barzillai, that he actually took his wife's family name. Normally, when we get married in modern times, the wife takes the name of the husband, and that was the case then. But in this case, he took the name of his wife's family. Down to verse 67, it says, besides their male and female servants, of whom there were 7,337. So he actually had numbers for each of these families and people. It says, and they had 245 men and women singers. I love that. I love that they had this choir, and they were important enough to be listed there. Sometimes those of us that are non-singers, we look at the choir and we think, oh, a bunch of nerds. How important are those singers? How important are those worship leaders? How important are they? Important enough that someone prior to Nehemiah had listed them down. They had written them down and said, hey, we had this many singers, male and female. Okay? Down to verse 70. And some of the heads of the fathers' houses gave to the work. The governor, look at this. The governor gave to the treasury 1,000 gold drachmas, 50 basins, and 530 priestly garments. Way to go, governor. But at the beginning of verse 70, some of the heads of the fathers' houses gave to the work. It goes on in verse 71 to say this: some of the heads of the fathers' houses gave to the treasury of the work 20,000 gold drachmas and 2,200 silver minas. Verse 72, and that which the rest of the people gave was 20,000 gold drachmas, 2,000 silver minas, and 67 priestly garments. I brought those, that's where we're going to close for the evening. I brought those up because I want you to understand this. We've been talking for the last several weeks about, hey, what can we do to be a blessing to other people? And we've mentioned some things. Maybe you can contact someone and ask them if they need prayer. You know, prayer can oftentimes calm the heart of the individual down. Maybe you can text some, maybe a verse or two to somebody, be an encouragement that way. Again, we got even more creative. Maybe you're not really good with speaking to people, but maybe you can make something. Maybe you can make a dish, or you can make some jewelry, or you do some kind of other craft. I don't know what you might do. But maybe you can make something, create something with your own hands that you can send to someone that can be a blessing to them. Maybe you can drop in on someone, cover up, gloves and mask, I get it, all that stuff. But maybe you can drop in on someone to visit and say, hey, are you doing okay? Or if you can't do that, you FaceTime someone, or you can do video conferences now, whatever, and you keep in contact with them. Find out if they're doing okay. But maybe, for whatever reason, I don't know all of the circumstances out there, but maybe you're unable to do any of those things. But can you give? Maybe you can donate. I have been amazed at watching Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse right now. They gathered up a team of Christian doctors and nurses and hospital staff and sent them over to Italy with a makeshift hospital to set up. Everybody's trying to run from these places, and then you have this group of Christian doctors and nurses and staff running in toward the danger. But they also have a separate team set up in Central Park in New York to serve there, to be a blessing there. Now, maybe you're not a doctor, and you're not a nurse, and you're not hospital staff, and maybe you don't belong to Samaritan's Purse, and maybe you're not Franklin Graham, and maybe you're not a great preacher, and maybe you're not a great communicator. And maybe you don't do crafts, and maybe you don't cook. Or maybe you can give, maybe you can donate, maybe you can get on the Samaritan's Purse website and donate a couple of bucks. Maybe you can give some money. Maybe your church is blessing people and giving out groceries or something. Maybe you can donate toward that. Can you give? And maybe you can give, and maybe you can give $500. But maybe you can give, but you can only give $5. Both are going to help, right? So who cares about the amount? So all of us can find something to do for someone else. And that's been one of my main goals, my main hopes as I started going through Nehemiah and doing this house to house, is that I want to help you to turn your view from an inward view, it's just me, and I got to make sure it's only about me and I'm covered, but also to look outward. Now, he said in here, he did mention that he wanted guards set up. Nehemiah mentioned, he says, put some guards in front of these certain places, but also he mentioned in front of their own houses, because it is good to take care of your own house. It is good to take care of your own home. That's something that I've been talking about with my family, is look, let's do our best to wash our hands and to stay clean and to not have a lot of contact with people. Why? Just so that we won't get the virus? No. But if we get sick, then we're not able to help other people. So let's do our best to stay healthy so that when we get the opportunity to bless someone else, we can be sure, we can be confident that we're healthy and not passing on some sickness to someone else. Or if I'm down and I'm locked in my room and I can't get out, well, that doesn't do me any good. I want to be able to get out and help someone else. So turning our view from inward to outward. That's one of the main goals, and that's what I want to encourage you to do, and that's what I want to encourage you to do tonight. So remember, we want to finish well. Whatever we're doing, let's finish it well. We've got to at least the end of April. I suspect it'll be a little bit longer than that, but we've got to the end of April to hold fast and let's continue. Let's finish well. In the process, let's find some good leaders, some good helpers. Let's find some people that can carry this stuff on. If you're a parent, let's show your kids. Okay, this is how we do it. And then final instructions: care enough that on your way out, you're not bitter, but you're better. And you're going to give those final instructions and say, hey, here's how you do it. Keep guard, keep watch, stay aware. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Our next session will be on Thursday night, this coming week. I don't know what the date is, Thursday night. And we will have worship leader Brian Manley, who will be joining us that night. And he'll be leading worship from his own home. And then we will come back over here for a look at Nehemiah chapter 8. And looking forward to having you all back out. Tell your friends. I'll be posting a little bit later tonight, and I'll tag Brian Manley so that you'll know you can go and follow him and be ready for his live set on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. Thursday at 7 o'clock. And but until then, do your best to turn that view outward. Take care of your own health, but turn that view outward. Look at others and say, hey, what can I do? I was going to mention something. I'll say this even though she's sitting right over here. In light of doing something for other people, my youngest daughter Phoebe, she had ordered something through Amazon, and she was tracking it because when you're getting a package you want to track it, and she saw that it was out for delivery at like 4 a.m. And her heart was stirred. And what she did was she thought, man, this delivery driver is like out all day long. So she left, I think, a drink and a snack with a little note of appreciation for the driver. And she left it on the porch. So when he showed up later in the afternoon to drop off the package for her, he saw this note for him, for the delivery driver, and he picked that up, took the snacks with him, and I'm sure it blessed his day. So be creative. Pray for some creativity. Let's go ahead and pray, and then I'll let you guys get back to your evening. Again, thank you so much. And Matthew Joe Perry's on, and the Hernandez family is on. Ponte Trucha Califas. Can Brian do a 45-minute set? We'll see what we can do, huh? Yay, Brian. Matt said, yay, Brian. Damaris, the Quinones family. Amen. Not bitter, but better. Thank you guys so much. Wings of the Dawn. Thank you so much, man. Good to see you. Will Cam was on. Ruthie Victoria. So good to see you guys. Lisa Cam, 247. Carol loves Jesus. There she is. So good to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Let me pray and then we'll let you get out of here. Father, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for the worship from Rachel earlier. Thank you for blessing her with a wonderful voice and the ability to play the guitar and lead worship. And thank you so much for your word and the time that we got to spend in it and just learn some practical wisdom and take away some practical skills. So help us now to implement these things, to put them into practice. This is a time, we're living in a time that's just filled with fear, and sometimes that it gets to us, it rubs off on us, and we get caught up in it. Help us to not be so fearful that we only look at ourselves and we only serve ourselves, but that we look to others and how we might be a blessing to them and maybe help to settle some people's hearts that are even more fearful than us. So we thank you so much again and pray for your blessing on the remainder of our evening and on our week. And we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you so much for joining. God bless you guys. Have a good night. Bye.